French fans gave us a standing ovation and asked us to walk out onto the pitch. Later we went to Vienna and the mayor invited us to dinner. Only after that did we realise what a great result it was against England.
6 months later, at the NEP Stadium in Budapest, the sides would meet again.
You see, to beat an England team is always very important. If it were possible, we could have sold 500,000 tickets, so many people wanted to get into the stadium. You could sell a ticket for at least 10 times its face value. Some people were even offering their prize pigs for a ticket. That's how big this game was.
This time it finished 7-1 to Hungary. The side dubbed the Mighty Magyars were already Olympic champions, and under coach Gustav Sebes played a new brand of quick-passing football that was taking everyone by surprise. After 1945, the new communist regime abolished what was a strong professional league in Hungary, but they made sure their top players were as well looked after as their Western European counterparts. Army Major Ferenc Puskás, for example, wasn't expected to keep his rifle clean, just his fancy car. After destroying England, they entered the 1954 FIFA World Cup in Switzerland with the absolute belief that they were champions-elect. And the Hungarians started like champions, 9-0 against South Korea, 8-3 against the Germans. Then it was Brazil in the quarters. Hungary emerged 4-2 victors. Next up, reigning champions Uruguay, who'd never been beaten in a FIFA World Cup match. It went into extra time and finished 4-2 to the Magyars. Hungary had made it to the final. It was a great match, but another physically draining encounter. They now faced West Germany, captained by the great Fritz Walter. Despite being serious underdogs, Walter and co. were seemingly fresher and more relaxed after a much easier passage to the final.
At the beginning, we thought there was no chance of beating Hungary, mainly because of the 8-3 defeat. But we also knew that we had been improving from game to game. So when it came to the final, we thought maybe there was a slight possibility of beating the Hungarians.
Still no one, except the most optimistic of Germans, believed that Hungary could possibly be taken. But those previous matches had taken their toll. Despite the Hungarians taking a 2-0 lead, Germany emerged, shocked 3-2 victors. It was Hungary's first defeat in 6 years. The mighty Magyars were never destined to lift the FIFA World Cup. 2 years later, Soviet tanks rolled into Budapest and many of the team defected. Most famously Puskás, who moved to Real Madrid and became a naturalized Spaniard. With the subsequent changes in political climate, the class of '54 were able to return to their beloved Hungary and talk proudly about their achievements. Not only did they make a huge impact on international football, but many like Puskás, who played for crack Budapest side Honvéd, were indirectly responsible for the creation of club football's biggest competition. The extraordinary story began in 1954 when Honvéd travelled to England to play Wolverhampton Wanderers. The English press, still smarting from Hungary's win at Wembley, saw Wolves' 3-2 victory as revenge. Wolves had already beaten Spartak Moscow 4-0, and English journalists, never ones to shy away from hyperbole, claimed for them the mantle of world champions. Meanwhile in Paris, writers at the sports newspaper L'Équipe and sister magazine France Football had their own views on how to decide which was the best team on earth. And they were determined to do something about it.
Journalists at L'Équipe said yes, Wolverhampton are a good team, but they need to face the likes of Milan and Real Madrid and other big clubs, and then they can say that they are the club world champions. So the thinking was, why not stage a big competition with the best clubs? That's how the European Cup started. The idea was put to journalists at L'Équipe to lobby for a competition to UEFA, who at that time were a very young organisation.
So in 1955, the first European Cup proper began. The highly active associations in Central Europe, though, had been one step ahead of the game. A hugely important tournament, the Mitropa Cup, began in 1927, featuring Austrian, Czech, Hungarian and Italian clubs. Now it was time to go a stage further and find a champion club for the whole of Europe. One team rapidly became synonymous with European Cup success. It was neither Honved nor Wolves. Real Madrid are not only the biggest club in Spain, they're arguably the biggest in the world. 9 times they've been European champions, and the museum contains probably the largest collection of silverware on the planet.
Everyone realises, the tradition of Real Madrid, but this is a club that is one of the biggest clubs in the world, and for me to be part of that and to wear the Real Madrid kit, now it means the world to me.
The team of the 50s was almost as revered as the superstars of today. For Beckham, read the great Di Stefano. For Zidane, read Puskás. The Spanish side dominated the European Champions Cup, winning the first 5 tournaments. Real's finest hour came on an unforgettable evening in Glasgow in 1960. They beat German side Eintracht Frankfurt 7-3 in a game which was arguably the greatest European final of all time. Real Madrid's Pachin, who played in the game, still can't believe it.
I remember they went 1-up, and then after that it was like a festival. Puskás scored 4 goals and 3 for Alfredo Di Stefano. It was like an exhibition. The ball was out of play for a very small amount of time during the game. Sometimes I watch it on the television, and I'm still amazed at how long the ball is in play during the game.
So Europe had their champions, but the South Americans were not just going to sit by and let Madrid be crowned the best club in the world. The Copa Libertadores, instigated in 1960, would provide their challenger to find the world's best club. The Copa champions were Peñarol, a side from a suburb of Montevideo, Uruguay. The team, formed in 1891, some 11 years before Real Madrid, by English railway workers, had risen to become one of South America's strongest club sides. It started well enough for the South Americans with a draw in Uruguay, but a crunching 5-1 defeat in Madrid confirmed what many had suspected: Real could beat anyone. Perhaps one reason for their success was that they were not afraid to search far and wide for talent. Real became one of the first big clubs to make major signings from abroad. Ferenc Puskás, of course, who'd been with the mighty Magyars, but perhaps their greatest star came from Argentina. Alfredo Di Stefano had travelled to Spain from his homeland via Colombia. He spent an unconvincing season with Barcelona before joining Real Madrid. 5 European Cups speaks volumes for what he meant to them. Di Stefano, like Puskás, became a naturalised Spaniard, but the man who'd take Alfredo's mantle as South America's finest never plied his trade in Europe. Santos, a port city just south of Sao Paulo, is home to the club where Brazil's finest ever player spent most of his career. Pelé was known and adored internationally for his exploits in 3 of Brazil's FIFA World Cup winning sides, but during his career at Santos, the club he joined as a schoolboy,